Hello everyone and welcome to TechFixFlix. In this tutorial, we will use an Elgato Stream Deck to automate Windows processes. If you are unfamiliar with the product, the Elgato Stream Deck offers 15 fully customizable tactile buttons, which can be assigned to any function, with icons created and arranged on the Windows or Mac application and immediately updated on the LCD screen behind the Stream Deck buttons. In addition to the original 15-button device, a 6-button Mini has also been added to the range. The Stream Deck is possibly one of the most expensive macro input devices of its type, with a recommended retail price of £139.99 and the Mini coming in at £89.99. Obviously this is a significant investment, and a reasonable quality Android tablet could be acquired at the same price point. However, it is also one of the most elegant, customizable and visually impressive options, combining the flexibility of a screen with the tactile responsiveness of a keypad. The market has become more competitive in 2018, with rival devices such as the Infiniton Black Macro Screen Keyboard at around £115. Several keyboards incorporate dedicated macro keys, and even a standard keyboard can be customized with software macros, and whilst these options are not as visually striking as the Stream Deck, they do not attract the same price point. Almost all of the functions shown in this tutorial can be achieved by alternative means, and owning the Stream Deck is not necessarily a prerequisite for this tutorial. It should be noted that Elgato has not sponsored this video, and our product was purchased with cash. Notwithstanding, should you wish to purchase either device, affiliate links to purchase from Amazon are on screen now and in the written description accompanying this video. Initial setup is very straightforward. Plug the Stream Deck into an available USB port, noting that the manual advises against using a hub for this purpose, and download the installation software from the Elgato website. Note that the software requires a 64-bit version of Windows 10 to run. Clicking on the download button will download the necessary software. In this instance, clicking on the downward pointing arrow in Google's Chrome browser allows us to immediately open the installer to begin the installation process. We simply click Next at the opening screen. As is traditional, your consent to terms and conditions is a prerequisite to installation, and we indicate accordingly by ticking the relevant box. Before ticking Next to proceed. We are now invited to select an installation destination. You can simply select the default for ease at this stage, but, as detailed in previous tutorials, we aim to retain an organised directory structure wherever possible, and opt to change away from the default toward a custom installation path. You are free to either accept the default or organise to your liking. With our custom path chosen, we click OK to confirm, before clicking Next to proceed. Finally, we click Install to allow the installation to progress. On a typical configuration, User Account Control will seek confirmation of your intention to install the software. As this was definitely our intention, we can safely click Yes to proceed here. The installation will now commence, with a green bar moving from left to right to highlight the progress of the installation. Once complete, the main Stream Deck window will open, and we will be working extensively within this window to set up our system. A shortcut will also be placed on the desktop, which we ultimately delete in order to retain a neat appearance. We can safely also delete the Welcome button by right-clicking on it and selecting the option to delete. Should you wish to press it to test the device, a browser window will appear and you will be taken to the Elgato website. Note that each of the main menus on the right can be collapsed, leaving only the header visible. We leave only the functions under the System heading visible, as these are purely the functions required for this tutorial. Whilst it may initially appear that this device simply adds 15 macro keys, or 6 in the case of the Mini, the route to expanding to almost infinite possibility lies in the creation of a new folder. Each new folder can contain 14 new icons, the 15th being a back button to return to the previous level. Recursively nesting folders within folders means that very many functions can be assigned to the Stream Deck. Folders and single actions can happily sit side by side and can be indistinguishable given the use of custom icons. Furthermore, multiple profiles can be created and triggered by the use of specific applications. The typical use case for the Stream Deck is to automate functions for creators of streaming video using OBS, but this tutorial will avoid the vast majority of the functionality of this device and concentrate purely upon the functions suited to a general audience. Indeed, our entire concern will be with just 5 functions under the System menu, namely Website, Hotkey, Open, Text, and Multimedia. Despite these considerable restrictions, the Stream Deck is still an extremely powerful companion, offering functionality which could be likened to Apple's Touch Bar. We will briefly summarise each of the 5 major system functions before illustrating how we have set up our Stream Deck. Then we will outline the various methods we have used to achieve this setup. Website enables a single website to be opened in the default browser. Copy the URL from your browser bar and paste it into the address field. Add an optional text label and customize the icon, and pressing the button will result in that page being loaded in the system default browser. At the time of this video's publication in winter 2018, there does not appear to be any mechanism for bulk import of web favourites, so the process is a labour-intensive manual one for those looking to import multiple favourites, and we would very much welcome an import utility in a future revision of the software. Hotkey allows the mapping of a key press or multiple key presses, allowing any function triggered by a keyboard shortcut to be directly mapped to the Stream Deck. Even if you don't know or don't use a particular shortcut, you can apply it once to map an icon to its function. For example, we rarely use Ctrl+S to save documents, but we can map it to a Stream Deck key to create a quick save button. The closely related hotkey switch allows for toggling of a switch between 2 positions. Open is the most powerful of these functions, running applications and scripts as well as opening files and folders. Given the incredible scope offered in even the most basic of scripts, the potential here is significant, and with the flexible configuration of the device, it is entirely possible to mix and match sources, and an application stored on the primary hard drive can easily be displayed next to an item on a secondary drive or network location. Text enters any text string, so any frequently entered text can be reduced to a button press, no matter how lengthy, so any long text items can potentially be stored here. Multimedia provides basic playback control for media applications. This is quite a restricted set, but can be augmented using buttons from other categories, as demonstrated later in this tutorial. Finally, multi-actions can deploy multiple actions sequentially. Although we haven't used it for this purpose, we could also imagine that the opportunity to map multiple key presses to a single key would make this an ideal device for gaining an advantage in gaming. We've spent the last 2 weeks integrating the Stream Deck into our workflow and offloading an increasing number of general commands and input tasks to the Stream Deck. We have found the device to be very stable in operation, which is essential if it is to be relied upon in day-to-day computing. We had a specific series of objectives, which informed our setup. We wanted a single button startup, which in one press would load the applications and settings which we typically use at the beginning of each day. This would be achieved most simply by running a script, or by using the multi-action feature. We also wished to be able to launch applications singularly, in part replicating the items previously launched from the taskbar, but also including less frequently used applications usually launched from the Start menu. The objective was not to entirely replicate the Start menu, but rather to place the most commonly used applications within easy reach. Given that many machines connect to our network, we sought to be able to access directories upon these machines to easily share files between them. We aimed to ensure each machine could immediately be recognisable via the use of a custom icon. We further sought one-button access to our shared network folders stored on our NAS drives. We also made provision for quick access to our local drives. We require access to a number of folders stored in various locations on our primary drive, secondary drives, NAS drives and networked PCs, and a selection of frequently used files. Again, whilst we would not make every single folder and file accessible via the Stream Deck, to have a number of frequently used files from different storage locations, all accessed via a single button press, greatly enhances our workflow. The device is also ideally suited as a control panel for smart devices, and we have set up a Stream Deck folder bringing together bulbs from LifeX and smart plugs from TP-Link. We sought to control our multimedia software, not only using the limited standard controls provided by default, but also to add controls for audio recording and disk ripping. We wanted to be able to apply basic formatting to our documents, and have quick access to our most used symbols. And we wanted to quickly enter text, including email and physical addresses, telephone numbers, and other repetitive text entries. We also consider using this device for automating password entries, although we wonder whether this represents a potential security risk and would seek clarification from the manufacturer on this point. Whilst we would like to add all of our web favourites, they number many hundreds, and without a mechanism to import in bulk, we may simply enter our most frequently used favourites only. We frequently receive files from third parties, but we are quite particular about our naming requirements, and therefore we often need to rename files in bulk. With the Stream Deck and a suitably programmed script, we can rename all the files in our Downloads folder with a single press. We also have a folder offering quick access to a variety of system functions and configuration settings. Finally, we have a standalone power off button for the system. This still leaves 2 buttons available for future assignment. If you have any ideas as to how we might use them, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. It is important to note that our setup offers absolutely no functionality that cannot be achieved by other means. What the Stream Deck does is bring together functionality from around the system and the network and organise those functions in a manner which makes sense to us, using icons of our choosing. It also strips away the distraction of applications and commands which we do not intend to use with any frequency, focusing instead upon the core functionality we use regularly. Used properly, this subset of tools offered by the Stream Deck can be exploited to improve and simplify the user experience. Your usage model, and therefore your configuration, could be markedly different to ours. Much of our time with the Stream Deck has been spent sourcing, downloading, creating and editing icons, and you certainly need some degree of competence in these areas to obtain the utmost visual impact from the device. An icon creation web page can be accessed from the link in the Stream Deck software, or directly via the link on screen now. This allows icons to be created with relative ease and consistent styling. Users have absolute flexibility in their method of icon creation, from free options including Microsoft Paint and Paint 3D, to more sophisticated options including Photoshop. Of course, you can source icons directly from a Google search, or from dedicated icon websites such as flaticon.com, icons8.com, iconarchive.com, softicons.com, and many more. You can also incorporate animated GIFs, or GIFs if you prefer, to bring your buttons to life. You could use any of the considerable selection at giphy.com, or download the Elgato RGB template from the link shown on screen. We prefer static icons in most instances to avoid the Stream Deck distracting attention from our monitor. Having set out the objectives underpinning our setup, it is now time to review how each of these was achieved. We will leave the morning combination action until the end, and begin by reviewing the Apps folder. For a typical application such as Google Chrome, it is as easy as navigating to the relevant .exe file in Explorer and dragging and dropping the icon onto the Stream Deck. The application is automatically assigned the correct icon and captioned on the Stream Deck, and we choose to amend it purely by capitalising it. Alternatively, you could remove the caption altogether simply by deleting it from the title box. This drag and drop technique fails for applications like Microsoft Outlook, although a dragging technique can still be partly deployed. Initially, you need to click and drag the Open action and drag it to a blank space on the deck. Then, you can drag and drop the Outlook.exe file onto the App File dialog box. Alternatively, you can use the built-in File Explorer to navigate to the relevant .exe file. Neither method will automatically add the relevant icon, and you will need to source this from System Files or by a Google search. The vast majority of applications can be successfully added to the Stream Deck by replicating the techniques employed for Chrome or Outlook, but a third category proved more difficult, namely applications downloaded from the Microsoft Store. From our 27 application shortcuts, 4 fell under this category, including Music Bee. Whilst this app has a non-Windows Store equivalent, others may not, and we needed to employ a workaround to launch apps acquired in this way. The Windows Store apps are initially difficult to locate. Press the Windows key and R to bring up the Run dialog and type shell:\apps folder. You will now see a full range of apps installed on the system. Unfortunately, you cannot drop or link to these icons directly from the Stream Deck, so we need to create a shortcut. Here, we're using Candy Crush Saga to illustrate the point. Right-click the chosen icon and select Create Shortcut from the menu which appears. Clicking Create Shortcut immediately generates an error message, and we click Yes to place the icon on the desktop. Here, we close all open windows to reveal the shortcut now pinned to the desktop. We then immediately cut the icon from that location and paste it within a folder of our choosing, which can be located anywhere on the device. We place the file in a newly created folder, C Windows Links. But again, you can place this folder anywhere, although note that subsequently moving it will break the linkage between your Stream Deck and your apps, unless you update accordingly. Note that, joining our Music Bee link are links to Kodi, LifeX and Paint 3D, which are all run from the Stream Deck using this method. You will note that the folder contains 4 batch files and a default rules directory, and we will explain each of these later in the tutorial. We now return to the Stream Deck and simply point our device in the direction of the link we have just created. Then, we add an icon, sourced from Google Search, and a label, and note that pressing the button now launches Music Bee. We have now covered the principles of launching apps. The only other noteworthy addition to this group is the More button, which is simply a folder containing a further 14 apps, with an icon sourced again from a Google search. Obviously, as these apps are more deeply embedded, we have carefully chosen our most frequently used apps for the first page, and slightly less frequently used ones for the second. Note that, contrary to traditional Windows, we can quite happily mix sources on our Stream Deck icons, so whilst most of our applications run from the C drive, our Steam launcher is housed on the F drive, and Origin resides on the E. This illustrates the complete flexibility in arranging icons on the Stream Deck. Returning to the home screen, we now look at the network icon. The first 3 icons are straightforwardly links to local hard drives, and again make use of the Open command, which we have previously used to launch applications. The next 8 icons again use the Open command, but this time each icon provides access to shared files on each of the machines which connect to the network. We have already set up the necessary file sharing permissions on each of the target machines, and we will demonstrate this in a future tutorial. And using the Stream Deck, we can push a single button to immediately access all the files available to us on the connected devices. In the App File dialog, we simply navigate to the shared path to set up access via the Stream Deck. We also add icons to distinguish between the various machines on the network. We include access to our Dropbox cloud storage via a simple Open command, and we will cover registering for and using Dropbox in a future tutorial. We have included a power button to run a simple script which will issue a Wake-on-L.A.N command to our NAS drive, allowing us to wake our network drives with a single button press. This script is named NASWAL and was previously shown to be included in our links folder, which we have used as a repository for all of the additional elements used to provide functionality not included in the Stream Deck by default. Finally, we have a further embedded folder accessing 11 shared network folders, again simply using the Open command to map the network location to the Stream Deck button. Our Folders button is very straightforward and opens a directory containing links to 12 of our most commonly used folders. Each of these buttons makes use of the Open command and very simply link to the relevant folder. This is entirely unremarkable except when compared to a standard Windows folder, in that each folder has a unique icon depicting its content, although we do have multiple Steam and Origin icons for local originals and their network backups. The folders are arranged in a custom order, rather than alphabetized or in chronological order as they would be on a standard file system. The folders are scattered over 3 local drives and 5 network shares, yet sit together here, their only shared property being frequency of use. This is equally true of our files directory, which again is a series of open commands to our most commonly used files, again making use of custom icons, custom sort order, and a variety of original file locations. Our home folder is used to toggle 4 LifeX smart bulbs and 5 TP-Link smart plugs. They each achieve this by loading a web page, triggering an if this then that applet. The end user will never see a web page because the Stream Deck software is set to access in background by ticking the relevant box. If you're unfamiliar with if this then that, it is a web service found at IFTTT.com. Its function is to link seemingly unrelated services together, using one as the trigger for the other. For example, if the weather forecast is for rain, then send me an email. Or if I receive a text message, then turn my lights red. In our case, we want the condition to be if we press a button on the Stream Deck, using the Stream Deck's web page function, a web page will load invisibly and serve as a trigger to the if this then that webhooks, which will toggle our nominated lights on or off. To achieve this, we have first created an account with if this then that, and we have added account information for both the LifeX and TP-Link Casa accounts, allowing us to connect to them. We will cover creating an IFTTT account and adding services in a separate tutorial. We click on My Applets, and you will note that we have already created 8 of the 9 applets we require. Let's now add the last one. We start by clicking on New Applet. Our new applet will link a webhook to a TP-Link Casa smart plug. The webhook will be triggered by a key press on the Stream Deck, and the smart plug will turn on an illuminated Santa. We click on this to select the trigger for our event. There are very many available event triggers, and there is plenty of scope for experimentation. We type webhooks in the search field and click on the icon when it appears. There is only one trigger here, which is the receipt of a web request, so we select it to proceed. We are invited to provide an event name, and we name the event Santa Toggle. We make a note of this name as we will need to input it to the Stream Deck later. Now that we have created the event trigger, we need to define the event, so we click on That. Again, there is a comprehensive list of potential actions. We search for TP-Link's Casa service, which controls our smart plug. The output could just as easily have been Philips Hue or LifeX or any other compatible device. There are various actions which could be triggered dependent upon the device. Whilst we could have separate on and off buttons, we choose the toggle option in order to have a single button press toggle between on and off states. We now need to select the relevant smart plug. A list of our device names appears in a drop-down window, and we select the smart plug which we named Santa. Reviewing our completed event, we now have a webhook listening for the trigger Santa Toggle, which will toggle our Santa smart plug on or off. As we do not wish to be advised every time we turn the Santa light on or off, we turn off the option to be notified whenever the applet runs. If we wish, we can check our completed applet. And we now have an applet for each light or switch. However, we still need to link these applets to our devices by means of an alphanumeric key, which we need to obtain. We click on the Services tab and type Webhooks before clicking on the Webhooks icon. In the Webhooks panel, we select Documentation, and we are taken to this panel. Where you see the black rectangles in this screenshot, you will see your key. In this panel is the full address of the web page which you need to input into the Stream Deck. You will of course need to replace the event field with the name of your event, so continuing our example, we would use Santa Toggle as the name of the event. We then take the complete web address and post it into the URL field on the Stream Deck software, remembering to tick Access in Background, which takes us from button press to web address to smart plug to illuminated decoration. We repeat this process to toggle each of our smart devices. One final note with regard to IFTTT is that routines may not run instantaneously, and there may be a short delay of a few seconds before the action is triggered. This is certainly worth noting in instances where immediate activation is required. Our media section simply uses each of the default multimedia icons for its first 7 buttons. We have added a custom rip icon for the Music Bee app by using the Hotkey function and mapping Alt+R to the button. This provides additional functionality not available from the Stream Deck's multimedia section by default. To further sell the illusion of harmony, our custom icon borrows its colour palette from the other multimedia icons and, to the uninitiated, appears to be part of the set. The same can be said for our custom Edit Info key, mapping Shift and Return. Our final icon is used for recording in Audacity and is actually a directory of further hotkeys. R for record, P for pause, space for stop, Ctrl-Shift-E for export, home to return to the start of the track, space for play, Ctrl-X for cut, Ctrl-C for copy, and Ctrl-V for paste, and finally Ctrl-W to close without saving. Hotkeys can be used in any program, simply by mapping the relevant keyboard shortcut for any particular function to a key on the Stream Deck. Relevant keyboard shortcuts can typically be found either by hovering over a functions icon or from its menus. Our formatting folder uses exactly the same set of principles. Again, we have spent a good deal of time in Paint 3D creating a harmonized set of icons from a much smaller base set found on Google. As with the media icons, we have opted to exclude text labels from the buttons, believing that their design should be universally recognizable. The top layer deals with file handling and system functions, whilst the second layer, accessed through the More button, deals with more basic document formatting. We have 3 further buttons for taking screenshots of a complete screen, selected window, or virtual machine screen. We have included a table of shortcuts which we have used at the end of this video. We have added a selection of wingding icons as these are typically difficult to insert, and we can now simply push a Stream Deck button and change font to insert 14 of our most frequently used symbols. Finally, we have done the same with the numbers from the same font. Again, your choice of characters will be a reflection of your own requirements. Our auto text screen doesn't really look like this. We've simply mocked this up to illustrate that the device could be used for password storage and entry. In the real world, our icons give a cryptic clue as to the nature of the password contained within. We are unaware as to whether this is a safe method of storage and therefore cannot entirely recommend it. At the very least, this poses a risk from anyone who has physical access to the device, as text entries can simply be read from the Stream Deck software screen. We've also added buttons to quickly enter our postal address, email address, or mobile phone number, and this is useful for any text string which is entered repeatedly. Unsurprisingly, all the buttons in this section make use of the Stream Deck's text feature. Our Web Favorites folder simply contains links to our favourite URLs using the Stream Deck's website function to open the relevant site in a new browser window. We don't use this function as often as we might, as we currently cannot import in bulk, and the Favourites option within the browser remains our preferred means of accessing our most frequently used sites. Our Rename button simply runs a batch file contained in our Links folder. The batch file examines each of the files in our Downloads folder and applies a series of rules to ensure that each name meets our criteria for capitalization, etc. Any files contained in the Downloads folder will be automatically renamed at the push of this button. We will demonstrate how to do this in a forthcoming tutorial. Our System folder uses a combination of Open and Hotkey commands to open system settings. We will post a summary of the commands used here at the conclusion of this video. Our Shutdown button is a combination action used to close down the local machine. Multi-actions can be created by right-clicking a blank button and selecting the Create Multi-Action option. This multi-action effectively enters the Win+X key combination, then inputs the hotkey U twice in succession to shut down the system. If anyone can offer a more elegant solution to this problem, we'd love to hear from you. And, whilst we're on the subject of multi-actions, we come full circle to look at our Morning button. As you can see, this multi-action simply runs a series of open commands in sequence, each one launching an application which we use at the start of the day. It also runs a script to synchronize the time with a time server to compensate for an internal clock which likes to race ahead. Again, this script is retained in the links folder with the other links and scripts. Some final thoughts. In this tutorial, we have automated many common Windows functions to single key presses using the Elgato Stream Deck. The Stream Deck is simply an input device, and many of the techniques used here could be replicated using other means. The Stream Deck is a costly investment if used solely for this purpose, but this is an unfair evaluation as the Stream Deck offers a far wider functionality which we have simply not touched upon here. Nevertheless, if the Stream Deck offered only the functions described in this tutorial, it would still be an extremely useful productivity tool in its own right, combining bright, clear icons with a tactile and responsive feel. It has been very stable in use, which is significant if it is to be used as a daily aid to productivity. There are further functions which we would like to see, although we view these as polite requests rather than demands for action, as we are well aware that we are using the device on the very fringes of its intended functionality. We would like a means to automate the importing of web favourites. This would save a great deal of manual labour if inputting more than a handful of favourites. We'd like a means of running scripts automatically within Stream Deck, rather than having to run external scripts which need to be linked. We'd like to run Windows Store apps more easily. We'd love native support for LifeX, Casa, Philips Hue and the like, as the Stream Deck would really make a superb home control device. Finally, we'd like profile backup sizes to be smaller. We don't know if we've been unlucky, but our default profile backs up at 1.78 gigabytes. That's greater than the size of our first PC's hard drive. This seems rather large for a series of icons and links. It's difficult to work with files of this size, even on our M.2 drive. But these are truly minor gripes, and we have very much enjoyed our time automating Windows processes with the Elgato Stream Deck. We will conclude with a list of hotkeys which we have used in this tutorial, which may help you with your projects. Thank you for watching this tutorial. Hopefully you found it useful. If you can provide a better, faster or more economical solution, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. If you'd like more, you are very welcome to subscribe to the TechFixFlix YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button. Subscription is of course entirely free and provides easy access to all of the videos posted here. Clicking on the neighbouring bell icon means you will be notified whenever a new video is posted. You can also keep in touch by following the official TechFixFlix Twitter account. Until your next TechFix, goodbye.